Rural Ohio, January 10th, 1982. The temperature hovered near freezing as a heavy gray overcast settled over the town of Shawnee. Snow from the previous night blanketed the roads and fields. At home, 40-year-old Harry Anderson sat at the kitchen table. He was a creature of habit. He had steady responsibilities and people who relied on his quiet, predictable routine. But that morning, his wife noticed he was distracted. Harry had barely slept. According to his family, he had spent the previous night staring out the window, quietly burdened by something he refused to explain. Around mid-morning, he put on his coat and walked out into the freezing air. He didn't pack a bag. He didn't say a dramatic goodbye. He simply started his vehicle and drove away. There was nothing in his behavior or his ordinary exit to warn his family that he wouldn't be back for dinner. He drove down the rural road and simply vanished. Later that evening, authorities located his car. It was sitting right here, abandoned along a snowy stretch of road exactly half a mile from his front door. The condition of the car was immediately baffling. The body was perfectly intact, meaning it hadn't slid off the road or crashed. It appeared intentionally parked. The engine block was completely cold. The keys were gone, and the interior showed no obvious signs of a struggle. Then investigators noticed the snow immediately surrounding the vehicle. It was entirely undisturbed. There were no footprints leading away from the doors. A grown man wearing work boots cannot step out of a car and walk through rural Ohio snowdrifts without leaving tracks. Yet Harry was gone, and the snow around the vehicle recorded nothing of his departure. The immediate search faced a brutal environmental timeline. Freezing temperatures plummeted overnight, and fresh snowfall actively covered the roads and fields, burying the physical remains of the morning under a fresh, heavy layer of white. In 1982, forensic science relied heavily on physical tracing. DNA profiling did not exist. Investigators needed distinct material, blood, fibers, or clear shoe prints to build a timeline. Out on a frozen country road with the snow actively erasing the scene, those anchors were gone. Over the following days, search and rescue teams saturated the area. Local volunteers walked shoulder to shoulder through the icy woods. Tracking dogs tried to pull scents from the frozen ground, and helicopters conducted extensive aerial scans of the local terrain. But without a clear set of tracks leading away from the car, the search grid was entirely speculative. The massive operation was effectively blind, searching hundreds of acres for a man the environment had already consumed. With the physical search failing, investigators had to rely on deduction. They broke the disappearance down into 3 main theories to see if any logic fit the scene. The first theory was an accidental death caused by the elements. If Harry experienced car trouble, he might have tried to walk home. Winter conditions can induce hypothermia rapidly, leading to disorientation, causing victims to wander into the woods and collapse. This map illustrates the expanding search grid radiating from the abandoned car. If Harry collapsed from the cold, his body should have been somewhere within these concentric circles. Yet weeks of searching by foot, dog, and air turned up nothing. Not a scrap of clothing and not a single physical trace. The second theory focused on intentional disappearance. Harry had been acting distant and stressed. But escaping requires resources. He left behind a wife and responsibilities. He withdrew no cash. He packed no bags. Investigators found no secret bank accounts and no note explaining his exit. Escaping also requires distance. Leaving a perfectly functional vehicle merely a half mile from his own house complicates the idea of a planned getaway. And again, a clean escape by foot is contradicted by the lack of tracks in the snow. That left the third theory, foul play. The idea that someone intercepted him on that rural road, pulled him out of the cold, and removed him from the area before authorities arrived. However, pulling a man from his vehicle against his will usually leaves a trace. The car doors were undamaged. There was no blood on the snow, and no scuff marks indicating a physical struggle. Furthermore, police could not identify a single person with a motive to harm him. Every standard explanation was challenged by the physical evidence. The thorough search of the area made accidental death difficult to sustain. The lack of preparation complicated the idea of escape, and the untouched car offered no proof of murder. Authorities were trapped in a forensic void. When physical reality fails to provide answers, human imagination rushes in to fill the empty space. In local diners and gas stations across town, rumors began to circulate. Residents whispered about unknown vehicles seen near the road that morning. Others claimed to see strange lights sweeping across the tree lines, or heard unidentified footsteps crunching through snow outside their windows late at night. Rural isolation amplifies these stories. Trapped indoors during long, dark winter nights, the community watched a local, dependable family man transformed into a pervasive local ghost story. The unease gripping the town stemmed from a disturbing realization. If someone could be removed from their life in broad daylight without leaving a single mark, it meant that same invisible threat could be living right next door. For Harry's family, the absence of answers created a condition psychologists call ambiguous loss. It is a specific type of grief where mourning is permanently paused. There is no body to bury and no definitive ending to process. The mind refuses to let go. Decades pass, but the family still describes scanning crowds for his face. A stranger at a grocery store, a silhouette on a snowy road, a sudden knock at the door. Every moment holds the possibility of his return, and every moment eventually collapses into disappointment. 40 years have gone by. The headlines faded and the search parties disbanded long ago. But to the people who loved him, Harry Anderson is forever 40 years old, forever putting on his coat, and forever walking out into the cold. The legacy of this case lies in the physical facts left on that Ohio road. Under the right conditions, a person can vanish without a trace, leaving behind only an abandoned car and a mystery frozen permanently in time.
If you want to hear true events, crime-related story, hit like and do subscribe Fear Labs 99, because the next story is even darker.